Hey, Paul. Welcome to the podcast. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good afternoon. Paul Nicholas, CEO and co-founder of OttoMoto.
Can you tell me about a little bit more about Automoto? Give me kind of like the 15,000 foot overview of it for individuals who aren't necessarily familiar with your organization.
OttoMoto is a platform that helps dealers of any asset, but auto is the big part of our business. But we help also RV, power sports, marine, even aircraft. As my background, I was and still am a pilot, and so there was some passion there. But we help dealers connect with lenders in a safeguard compliant way and give them additional tools to make their job more efficient, expedite the process, and give some transparency to the consumers as well.
You mentioned you were a pilot. What do you fly?
Yeah, so I have a Mooney. It's a little single engine four-seater. But that's what I went to college for, and actually had an interview scheduled in October of 2001. And we all know what happened in September. But one of my students owned multiple franchise auto dealers.
Mhm.
And so he said, "Hey, come work for me. I'll teach you the car business and you teach me to fly." And so that's how I got into the car business. And 12 years working with him, and wore every hat in the dealership, specialized in the financing. And after 12 years, I had an opportunity to really build indirect finance programs for lenders. And that's where I got to see the other side. And even on the dealership side, it's very siloed, and I'd have 10 tabs open across the top, and I'd have to type in the what we call alpha load, your name, address, phone number, all of that 5 times to do a deal. And but on the lender side, they had a lot of the same issues, and then a lot of compliance, and there was a lot of soft cost. And that was where OttoMotto was born, saying, man, both sides needed a better tool, and so OttoMotto was born from that.
I know that you've kind of explained how it came to be, but why didn't you decide to pursue further in the dealership space? I think that there's a lot of people who are in finance that end up as GMs. Was that just not something you were interested in? Was that not the path?
Yeah, so I had worked my way all the way up to GM
Okay.
of one of his stores, and just didn't want to work for somebody my whole life. And I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. And I did even start my own independent dealership, and seeing the lack of tools they had. So Automoto was also a personal need, like, hey, I want those tools that I had as a franchise dealer in my independent dealership. And but we also built a lot of tools that helps franchise dealers with compliance and safeguard rules and things of that nature. And so we help all dealers, whether they're independent, franchise, buy here, pay here, any assets, we can help them all.
For the development piece of the actual platform, were you working with a co-founder, someone who has that technical thing, or were you able to do that also?
Yeah, so my co-founder is Carol Dokalovich, and she was the business background. So she's had, 6 successful exits in multiple different businesses, and some of those were in software. So it really, we've been a good yin and yang, just because, I've got the auto experience and the finance, and know, aviation and all of that as well. But she had the business acumen, and so it's been a really good partnership.
How do you continue to push the envelope for the platform? Are you using feedback that you're getting from clients, feedback that you're getting from the lender side? How are you deciding what's important to include in future iterations of the platform?
Yeah, no, great question. In the beginning, it was a lot of my brain, right, from my
Sure.
20 plus years of experience. But now that we've got numerous clients on the dealer side and the lender side, most of our enhancements are from client feedback. So it's gotten to be fun, because it's not just my brain, it's actual client feedback. But it feels really good when you have clients say, this is the best thing, this has been needed, and it really has got everything in it. And that's because I've sat in all those seats. So I knew, what I wish I had back in the day, right?
Right. So let's talk about some of the trends that we've seen recently, more recently in the auto industry, and kind of talk about how that's impacted Automoto. So first, let's talk about supply chain. I know that that was really big in 2021 through 20, let's say early 23. Supply chain was really trying to get back on track. Had you seen any sort of impact from that with your clients working with you?
Yeah, supply chain, we all know supply and demand affects the cost, and it's tough because you've got, dealers that are having to pay more for the cars. I do think that's trying to change. But then in turn, lenders are having to pay more. And then with economic times, lenders are worried about delinquencies going up and things. So when everybody's paying more and then delinquencies are going up, it's been tough. The last, say, 18 months. And a lot of lenders have either pulled back or gotten out of certain types of lending. And so it's left a lot of dealers kind of, with big voids of being able to help their customers and their local community, making sure that they maintain transportation, and so it's been a struggle.
Are you saying right now that you're seeing a gap between lenders who are willing to participate in certain types of financial instruments because of their risk aversion?
Yeah, I would say that's true. A lot are trying to clean up balance sheets and things of that nature, but they've been doing that the last 18 months. And at OttoMotto, we feel just from our current and our future partners that we're in talks with on the lending side, that it's starting to we're seeing the bottom bounce, right? Where they're now trying to find the best ways to move forward and start to open up those lending options again.
Have you seen a lot of changes in consumer behaviors recently? I know that you've seen it from the lending perspective as we're seeing interest rates climb. Have you seen also changes in how consumers are approaching deals on auto?
Yeah, there's people, right, that every year they'd buy a new car. Their CPAs tell them, right? That's not the norm, but that starts a trickle down effect when they don't buy every year. Take some of those trades out of the market and things of that nature, and the interest rates being high, is what's considered to be one of the number one reasons for that. And so when you stop having that, it starts to build a gap in the lower end of the market as well. And that's what causes the supply chain issue. It's not the new cars have started to come back, right? We don't hear about, or we don't drive by the new cars and they're empty any longer. But those cars that would now be 3-4 years old, they're not there because of the supply chains back then. And so the person that's trying to buy a good value, and that's going to give them a good longevity and dependability, those cars are expensive because they're just not there.
I would agree there. I think that we're also seeing people who, like my wife and I, were hanging on to a vehicle longer than we probably had anticipated because there is, the shift in either good, high quality used inventory or a new vehicle that kind of meets all of our check boxes.
Yeah, no, we hear that a lot in the industry where people, they were trading out, at least every 2 years, and now they're holding on to them much longer.
I was one of those people. I think that my wife and I both were, we were getting new cars probably every 3 years. And we've got a 2016, and then I got lucky and I have a 2021 that I bought used from someone whose CPA said you need to buy a new car every year.
Yep, yep.
Let's get into the last topic that I think has the biggest impact for your organization. Some of the cybersecurity awareness around auto, especially with CDK happening a couple of months ago, are you seeing more questions for your from your customers as well as your lenders on your security compliance and how you're dealing with customer information?
100%, which is good. And we were prepared for that because we took security and compliance very seriously. And one of our first goals was to become SOC 2 Type 2, which is a big undertaking as a company. And we've had that now for a while. And we go way beyond even SOC 2 Type 2 um, in compliance and in, hacking. We're trying to stay on the latest trends and make sure that we're protected. We've got, company that we've hired that basically they're called white hackers that hack us all the time to try to see if there's any vulnerabilities and things of that nature. So we go above and beyond to make sure that we, one, maintain our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, but that we can pass any vendor risk assessment, which is kind of a newer term. But a lot of your larger corporations and even your franchise groups have developed a department that is kind of putting all of their vendor partners through a compliance check. And we've been through that now, I don't know, over dozens of times. And we've passed with flying colors because we've taken it so seriously for so long that it's easy for us.
Can you give a high level for everybody the what SOC 2 Type 2 compliance entails? Like it's incredibly rigorous. I know that I've worked on some similar type. I think we were in ISO compliance that we were looking at, and the document itself that we had put together was a few hundred pages. So can you kind of talk about that super high level? It was very similar, yes, that it's a few hundred pages of compliance documentation, a lot of questions about the organization and how you're handling materials internally and externally, correct?
Yeah. Our first took over 8 months to get it. And we had dedicated two people to that was their primary job. And so you can add up those hours, right? And it is very much, policies and procedures, onboarding and offboarding, all the way down to, how you handle if you were to have phishing, and emails or hack and things of that nature. It's how all the corporation is going to handle all that, all the financial information, and then all the way down to you have to basically have an audit of the app as well and the security on that. And so it's very comprehensive, and it handles everything from contractors, employees, onboarding, offboarding, the software, you name it. It makes sure that you're doing everything you can to protect any of your vendor partners.
Do you think that having that certification is a differentiator for your organization?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's becoming where you have to have that now if you're going to work with lenders. So it's definitely a differentiator in what we do above and beyond SOC 2. But SOC 2 is now, pretty much become an industry standard if you're gonna be working with customers, personal information and lenders and things of that nature.
And it's good to see that there are vendors out here that take security very seriously for themselves as well as their customers.
Yeah, that was number one, just knowing what was coming down the pipeline with the safeguard rules that come out last year, last June. We've got some new ones that were supposed to happen in the beginning of August, but they've been postponed, so we'll see. But OttoMotto's prepared, and we're giving dealers tools that they can utilize us and putting us in their policies and procedures as part of their audit, when it comes to safeguard rules and things of that nature. So we're giving our partners even an easy tool to help them stay compliant.
Is that something that is standard with the platform, or is that
Yeah,
something in addition to? Okay.
yeah,
So it's a kind of a value add.
correct. Yeah, we've got we call it a digital deal jacket, but everything customers PII and everything can be stored right inside of our system. The customers can upload it themselves, but even a salesperson or an F&I person can do it. But think of it like your mobile banking, where when you took a picture of that check for mobile banking, it didn't store it on your phone. So even if a salesman takes a picture of a stipulation, it goes right into our system, but it's not on that salesperson's phone. And we have what's called KYC tools, which is know your customer. So it's like the ID verification tool, and a number of other tools to help fight fraud and things of that nature for our dealer and lender partners.
I don't deal much with people who have a strong financial background like that. Usually, a lot of times I'm talking to people within the auto space who've spent a lot of their careers on the sales side. And it's refreshing to see that there's organizations out there that continue to have these safeguard policies.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a great compliment, and we pride ourselves on, we're not just another tool, but we're really coming in to be the tool that you can utilize and know that you're helping keep your customers' personal identifiable information compliant.
So let's get into that a little bit. What other differentiators does OttoMotto have compared to some of the other similar competitors in the space?
There's a number, but to highlight a few, beyond the digital deal jacket, we've got a tool that can help a group and a dealership group. It's hard for them to hire what we call old school F&I, that really knows how to build the relationships with the lenders and their programs and making sure that they're sending the right deals to the right lenders. And we have the ability for like an F&I director to build what we call the digital bank book. So we all had a bank book when we spun paper, and it was a 3-ring binder with a program and all of our notes around it. And we've been able to digitize that and allow maybe a green F&I person to click one button, but he's accessing all of the knowledge of that F&I director that set up that digital bank book. So a lot of our partners have enjoyed that. We're integrated with products. We have the desking tools so they can desk it. We're cloud-based, so it'll work on their cell phone. So what I'd like to say is, even if it's not a big outage that took everything out, I mean, it could be a power outage for 2 hours at your dealership. You can run this on a tablet or a cell phone and still be able to pull credit in a safeguard compliant way, desk your deal, pull your products, get your contracts, and do everything. And so you don't have to stop doing business just because, the power went out for an hour.
As a consumer, I think I would be a little bit hesitant to do it on phone. Tablet's okay. Phone may get a little weird.
Yeah, no, I can see that because we all associate our phones as a danger spot. But it's, our software is just it's secure, and it can be operated on the tablet, and still be able to conduct business.
Let's talk about some advice that you've gotten throughout your career. What sort of advice would you give someone who is looking to break into a similar space as OttoMotto, or looking to get into the financial realm at a dealership? What would you tell to your younger self? What sort of advice would you give?
The advice is to listen. They're the old school, has lots of knowledge, because this business and the finance in a dealership isn't something that you can go to school for and come out and be great at. It takes time. It takes experience and and being a people person for multiple reasons. I mean, you have to be a people person for the consumer, but even the lenders, it's even though we're going to the digital age and Automoto is in the forefront of that, it's a people business and your lenders, they're there to help and they're there to make money too. And so everybody's got the same goal. And so if you keep that in mind and you make friends and you listen and try to gain from the wiser that's been there, done that, then you'll find success. It's going to take time, so you definitely want to make sure that you don't expect to get into F&I and in the first 3 months you're making all this money that you keep hearing about.
Do you think mentorship is important?
Yeah, but I don't think you got to have like one mentor. I think it's more about the culture of the dealership, right? If the culture is good, it's going to naturally happen. If the culture is not good in the dealership, then yeah, you're going to need that one person at that dealership that's taking you under the wing, but so that you're not getting steered wrong. But it is a good business, and you can, make good money and make good money while really helping people. And I think that F&I is what people don't realize is I think consumers want to have a professional that helps them with that purchase because it's the second largest purchase they're going to make in their life. But they don't do it every day. And so they want somebody to guide them through those processes. And I think that's why the dealership will be around a long time. You'll always have people that'll take advantage of the full online purchases, but people still want a professional to help them. And so if your goal is to truly help them, you're going to have a good career, you're going to make good money, and you're going to make a lot of happy people along the way.
The time that you spend in the box is always longer than you think it should be. But I think that the consultation that you get while you're there is important, right? Making sure that the $75,000 that I'm spending on my truck, that my truck is protected for what I think is in a reasonable amount of time versus how long I'm going to own it.
Correct.
If I'm going to own it for a year, I'm not going to get all the bells and whistles for the extended warranty. But if I'm owning it for 10 plus, yeah, of course, I'm going to try to get that warranty period for as long as I possibly can. Yeah, I'm going to pay a little bit more for it. But I think as a consumer, my peace of mind is also important to make sure that the thing that I'm purchasing out of the norm is protected for as long as possible.
Right. And that's what the old school good F&I person's going to do is they're going to interview you. They're going to see what your intentions are, your current car, how long have you owned it, how many miles is on it. And so in their head, they're doing the math. Okay, they've owned it for 5 years and they've put, 200,000 miles on it. Well, they're putting 40,000 miles a year on their car and they keep it for a while. And so they'll develop products that'll help that person compared to the person that has only had it 2 years and they put 30,000 miles on it. That's a different. And so, that's where, the goal with Automoto is to give that efficiency. So you're in the box less, but give the F&I person the time to still build that relationship.
So let's talk about the one other thing. What is the worst professional advice you've ever been given?
I've gotten so much good that sticks in my head more than the worst, but probably the one that I laugh at the most, and I don't know if it's necessarily advice, but I hear lots of people they want to become their own boss or start their own business because they work too long. And I always shake my head and say, if you're trying to start your own business to work less, then don't do it. That's not the right way. Because you're going to work a lot more hours having your own business. So if anybody's given the advice of start your own business to save working hours, that's not good advice.
Yep, I'll pile onto that. So as an entrepreneur, right, my day starts about 5 a.m. where I work for an hour, hour and a half before my son wakes up and I take him to school. And then I do another like 9 to 5. And then once he's in bed, I'm doing probably another hour. So every day I'm doing 10 hours or more, including the only day that I really take off is to make sure that I disconnect is Saturday.
So I'm very similar. I'm not up at 5 a.m., but my days are 12 hours, which if you add yours together, they're 12 hours and it's 6 days a week. And my Sundays are my free day. But if I fell behind on work or Sunday's my catch up day. So I might work a half a day on a Sunday just to catch up. But yeah, it's a grind and you got to enjoy it and you got to believe in what you're doing. And for me, it's always been helping. So I was good at the F&I because I was helping people. And to me, with OttoMotto, I'm helping independent dealers with a tool that they've never had before. And then I'm helping franchise dealers with, tools as backups, as redundant systems and to keep them safeguard compliant and to give them the ability to give a little transparency to their customers. So it's a good feeling that OttoMotto has done what it's done and gotten the traction we have this fast. So that's what keeps me motivated and gets me up.
I was going to ask if when you get that positive feedback from a client, especially one that's freshly onboarded, isn't that so energizing?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. It validates what you think, right? You always are drinking your own Kool-Aid, but when other people say it, then, it really hits home.
So automotive is one of those industries where you see a lot of turnover at the top. You see a lot of GMs switch from dealership to dealership. Do you get a lot of expansion because you've had a GM implement OttoMotto at their previous dealership, and then when they switch over, that they're like, yes, we need this tool? Is that kind of one of your growth methods that you're leveraging?
No, great insight, and we're just starting to see that. We're still a fairly young company. And we're starting to see that where a dealership signs up and it's because they were from another dealership that had us. So that's getting exciting too, because that'll help us expand and much quicker.
If you don't mind me asking, how many rooftops do you support currently?
So we are over 1,000, but we have some channel partners that are bringing us a number of dealers. We're actually asking them to roll it out slowly just so that we can give the white glove treatment. But to give you an idea, in this year, our record month is we've onboarded 148 dealers in 1 month. So we're growing pretty quick. We're trying to tamper, the growth a little bit just to make sure that we're giving white glove treatment and that they're aware of all of our tools and things of that nature.
That's a great problem when you have to slow down the growth intentionally to make sure that everybody has that same onboarding service, that they understand what it is that they signed up for and that they continue to feel connected with the organization. Here's my last little bit of the podcast. So I give you 90 seconds to plug anything you would like, if it's something that you're passionate about, if it's OttoMotto. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
No, thank you for the opportunity today, Brian, and I appreciate your podcast and it helping the dealers. And that's what I'm about. That was where OttoMotto is born from. Is there's thousands and thousands of dealers out there that could take advantage of it. And I'm a big one that wants to help. So, if it's, a group of dealers out there, like a 20 group situation, or if there's a dealer that's new that just wants to bend my ear or something like that, I can't take time for everybody, but I'm just passionate about helping. So even if you get feedback and dealers want to hear more or more of the nuts and bolts of F&I or something of that nature, I'm happy to dig into any kind of feedback you get, because that's part of Automoto's culture is, we're here to help, and however that looks.
Yeah, if I get that feedback from this podcast, the engagement with the audience, I would love to set up maybe a roundtable where we invite some of those people who provided the feedback, as well as you or whomever else in the organization can kind of talk and do kind of a Q&A roundtable, make sure that we're addressing the audience issues and see what we can work out for them.
Yeah, happy to do that, because there's a lot of good dealers out there that just need a little bit of help. And that's what I want Automotive to be.